Hello friends! Today we are making some delicious mint rhubarb gooseberry jam. Mwah! We are going to cover a lot of different things in this jam making video, so if you just wanted to look at the timestamp and skip to the canning or the boiling process or whatever else, go ahead and do that, but we are going to start this video first out through that window in the garden, checking out the fresh ingredients. Jam making is really special to me. It's a great way to preserve the fruit that I grow and to eat it all year long. It's super special in the middle of winter to be able to crack open a jar of something that you made when it was fresh and ripe and just have that going all season long. So anyways, in this recipe we're going to be using gooseberries. This is a gooseberry bush behind me. It's about 5 years old, I think now. I have harvested about 30 to 40% of this bush, and that's about 5.5 pounds worth of gooseberries. If you're new to gooseberries, I don't know how the focus is going to work. They look about like this. Look like little marbles, and when you pull them off, they are a little bit tedious. Every single one of them, you have to take the front end off where the flower was. That's the tassel. And then you have to pinch the back end here where it's connected to the stems. That's the tail. So you have to tassel and tail every single one of these. But it's worth it. Gooseberries have a nice mild flavor. They are loaded with pectin. So when you're mixing it with something like rhubarb, which we are today, this will provide that stiffening agent. You could of course use a pack of artificial, well not artificial, but a pack of pectin from the store, but I prefer to get the subtle flavor of the gooseberry and the all natural stuff that's just found in here. So like I said, already picked some of this, so we're not going to be harvesting it on camera today, but it is great to use. In this recipe we're also using rhubarb. I have 2 different plants of rhubarb here. Both of them are red varieties. I need to harvest about 2/3 of this now and then leave it grow for the rest of the summer before I harvest another 1/3 in the fall before the frost. But rhubarb is one of those wonderful things in our area that's very prolific. Some of the first harbingers of spring that come up. Super easy to harvest, don't you know? You can either slice it or my preferred way, reach down at the bottom, twist and pull. Comes off just fine, and then I believe that sends a signal to the root saying, oh, there's been damage, and then it'll shoot up another one, as opposed to a clean, straight cut. I don't think that signal is transmitted. Could be wrong. Either way, out of the scope of this jam making video, right? For this recipe, we're going to be using a cup or so of tightly packed mint. I grow mint in barrels. You can see it does really nicely here. It's going to be an infusion for us, but the mint you can either pull up the whole thing or just pick off the leaves, whatever you want. This is one of those fun things that's also an early summer, spring. It feels like a fresh, current ingredient, so I like to use mint in unique ways, and I think it adds a subtle flavor to this jam. Before we get started, it's important to run a load of dishes. This is my preferred way of sterilizing my jars. I've got my lids in the top rack, small ones inside the big ones. And then I've got smaller jars up top and bigger jars in the bottom. Not that that matters where you place them, that's just what I do, intermix with the normal dishes. Anyways, this will help sterilize the jars and the rings. The lids, I will boil in a saucepan and have them on the ready when we're actually doing the canning in the end. Before we get the jam rolling, I'm just going to take a couple of dessert plates and put them in the freezer to be frozen temperature. This is going to help us figure out the exact setting point of the jam later on. It'll make sense when we do it, just trust me. Here we are inside, finally time to start work on the top of the stove. Pardon my hunching, it's a small kitchen. To begin, we're going to make a simple syrup to extract all of that wonderful element from the mint. It's wonderful 1 to 1 to 1. We've got 1 part white sugar, 1 part water. I'm doing a cup of each. And we'll give that a little bit of a stir for giggles. And then this is just over 1 cup mint. I took the leaves off of the stem. We're just going to put all of that in there. Turn the saucepan on high. Now we want this to come to a boil. Then we're going to reduce it to low and simmer for 10 minutes. And then remove it from the heat for at least a half an hour so all of that mint can soak into the simple syrup. Alright, now it's time for the really fun part. I'll flash the recipe on your screen. Go ahead and pause and take that down should you like. Effectively, we're doing 1 part gooseberry, 1 part rhubarb. In my case, I'm doing about a 1.5 kilograms of each, and instead of using some of that fresh rhubarb that I just showed you, I have some leftover frozen stuff from last year, so we're gonna do this first. All we need to do is, if you're using frozen, there's gonna be some condensation, you know, some water that's condensed out and frozen, so you don't need to splash any more water in the pan. If you're using fresh rhubarb, you'll wanna put down maybe a cup of water, add your rhubarb, add your gooseberries, and bring it to a boil. Okay, the timer is done on our mint simple syrup. Looks pretty nice. You can take the camera in for a little look here. The syrup has a nice golden haze, and it smells excellent. You could probably see when I was swirling it around that it looked like a little bit of oil and water. Effectively, you've extracted these mint oils out. So I just have a little strainer here. I'm going to pour it directly into our jam while it's boiling. This is perfect timing as this 30 minutes comes to. I can hear a rolling boil starting to form at the very bottom of the pan. Careful to not get the mint in here. If some of your mint falls in the pan, it's not the end of the world, but it's not going to break down anymore. I'll put that back in there, squeeze it a little bit, get some of that last bit of essential stuff out. While we wait for this to fully boil, which it is just about to, let's talk about a couple things. So you see I'm just doing this in a big stock pot. It works just fine. Of course they make jam specific pots out of stainless steel and copper for real nice even heating. They're great if you can get them, copper in particular, but they're awfully expensive. $200 or so depending on how big you get and the brand and such. But this certainly does its job. The important thing to remember is you have to keep stirring on the bottom. Otherwise, when this really gets going, it's going to bake to the bottom, and you do not want burnt fruit getting into your jam. It's disgusting, it has a horrible texture, it has a horrible taste. Take it from me, I've made that stupid mistake before, and I don't think I'll ever let it down. So we want to bring this to a boil, and once it's actively boiling, we're going to reduce the temperature to a simmer. And then we wait. We keep stirring the entire time it's on simmer until all of the fruit has broken down into a pulp. And you will know it when you see it. You'll see color change, you'll see texture change. In this case, the gooseberries will explode. You know, they'll break open. They're not gonna go pah! But we are working with molten fruit, so be careful, especially during the boiling phase. This is a bubbly, viscous, amazing thing. So you can see that we are boiling here. This is a fine time to turn it to a simmer. And once that boiling started, can you see, sorry it's hard for me to tell, you see how this gooseberry is breaking open by itself? That's good, that's what we want. That bright, vivid green will turn to a nice, docile yellow. Now it's time to talk about sweetener. I do it the old-fashioned way with just some white sugar. Of course, the old-fashioned way could be just to not add anything to it and rely on the sweetness of whatever you've got in here. But I've got very mild flavors and tart flavors with the rhubarb, even if you're baking it out. So oftentimes when you're looking online, you'll see people recommend either 1 pound of sugar for every pound of fruit, that 1-to-1 ratio again, or even higher. I cut that in half. So I've got instead of doing, let's see, 1 part, so 1.5 kilos rhubarb, 1.5 kilos gooseberries, which would be 3 kilos. That would recommend 3 kilos of sugar, which is not what I'm doing. I'm doing a little less than 1 kilo. So it might sound like a lot. Of course, we're making many, many jars right now, but that's our next step. We're gonna add the sugar, whatever amount you want, in here, crank up the temperature to high, bring it to a boil, and then we're going to simmer it. All right, you can see this is boiling very nicely. I turned it down from high to maybe 7 on my temperature because I don't want it splattering like crazy. Timer's on for 30 minutes. I'm going to keep stirring constantly. Remember to do that so it doesn't burn on the bottom. And I'll check back with you in another 30 minutes. I'm gonna turn this down again. See, that's what I was talking about. Okay, our 30 minutes is almost up and I wanted to draw you in here for a couple things. You can see that the fruit is 99.9% totally pulped. You got the random shell of a gooseberry in here, that's about it. But look at how nice And viscous. This is already, we got nice. Viscous, my 3-year-old daughter says. Check it out. Oh, 3-year-old in August. We are just about to test this for the setting point now. So working with some moderate expediency, we're gonna get one of those plates out of the freezer. Don't want to touch it too much. I'm just going to take a little dollop from the top. Put it on the side, come up to you. So we want to see. So check it out. Hold on. The stuff that came in contact here with the frozen part set nice and quickly, and check out that. Oh yeah, see? That's jam. That just sticks to my finger. Not going anywhere. It's a perfect consistency. And as it is actually jarred, it will set even more. And then of course, you'll put it in your fridge eventually and it'll get even more firm. So, I guess we got lucky with our circumstances. Whoa, don't want to lose a spoon, and we definitely want to keep stirring. Our circumstances were good. We only really had to do a half an hour on this. I think I'm probably going to do this another 10 minutes just for the fun of it. And then we are going to start canning. Ooh, good job, guys. Like I said, if this wasn't the thickness that you wanted, just keep boiling it and checking it every 15 minutes on a cold plate. But we're good. Okay, the jam is all done cooking. Now it's time to can, the fun part, right? It's all fun. A couple things, obviously. Here are our jars that we washed in the dishwasher earlier. They are cool now. I've got the funnel. This is retro from, I want to say, the 70s, from a member of my family. Over here boiling, I've got a sterilized tongs. Ladle. Ladle works best for me. Don't mind me dripping on the floor. And our lids are in there as well. So it's pretty straightforward. Let me show you what to do. We take the ladle. Don't do too much or else you'll have a mess. You're gonna have a mess no matter what. I'm gonna have a mess no matter what. And we bring it over and we slowly pour it on in. Wow, one ladleful was almost perfect. You don't want to go right up to the top. You want to leave maybe a 1/4 of an inch, I'd say. Good. We grab our tongs. This is a wide mouth lid. I gotta fish one out. We fished out our wonderful sterilized lid. This goes right on top. Lovely. We take our rings, which were also dishwashed, and we just make sure we're putting them on appropriately. This might require 2 hands. So let's come a little closer, focus, and talk about this. It looks dark from your perspective, I'm sorry. My lighting situation's not a studio. Don't you know, it's a kitchen. Anyways, right up about a 1/4 of an inch from the top here. Now this lid, I'm going to just let it sit vertical like this, and over the course of the next hour or so, it's gonna go, and it's gonna suck. You're gonna feel that, you're gonna hear that popping sound if you're around. It doesn't sound like a pig, I just did a very bad job of that. But I just set them all up straight like this over here, and repeat. Ta-da, all done. This made, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you know, these tiny little ones. And then the leftovers that I didn't want to put into a jar. I just kind of put in this. So this plastic one is what we'll use first. This will go in the fridge and we'll just use it right up. Oh, I have my crown on. Well, my daughter brought me a crown because she's playing. So you can all appreciate that, you with children. I'm gonna let these sit overnight. As I said before, they will pop. If I wake up in the morning and a few of them haven't actually depressed, I will just poke them down with my finger, and that will be that. Once these are completely cooled, you go ahead and you store them in your cellar, store them in a pantry, put them right in the fridge, if that's what you're gonna do. Give them to friends and family. Before you do that though, take a Sharpie and write on the top the flavor and the year, so people know if it, you know, gets in storage and they forget about it for a long time. This is really a delicious jam. That mint is such a subtle flavor. I think if anything it makes the rhubarb taste a little bit more sweet and bright. It doesn't just taste like a mint smoothie or something grotesque. So even the non-mint likers will like this mint rhubarb gooseberry jam. So what do you think of my recipe? Have you made something similar? Tell me about your jam making habits down below. If you like this, you know what to do. And until next time, happy gardening and happy jam making.